Hey guys, so I wanted to do a video on some misconceptions of the Antichrist, and there is a lot of people talking about, the Antichrist and what is he going to be like and do and all of this stuff. And it's really disheartening to see so many people believing things that are not in the scriptures, or that maybe they have a very misinterpreted view of some things that maybe were taught to them in the past, or maybe they search up on Google and and it kind of is like, well, this person this person says the same thing and this person says the same thing and all of that stuff, so it just becomes a belief that people have. And so I just wanted to clear up some of the misconceptions that I see happening, and a lot of you probably see happening. So I'm just going to go through the things that I'm going to talk about, and then go from there, and then we'll dive into these things, okay? So number one, this is what people say, okay? So they say that he will be gay or not desire women, okay? Number two, he will be attractive. Number three, he comes from the Middle East. Number four, he will be against God. Number five, he will outwardly claim to be God. Number six, he is not a man but a system. Number seven, he will be revealed publicly. Okay, so let's dive into number one. A lot of people say this: he will be gay or he will not desire women. So we have to jump to the scriptures to see what the scriptures actually say about this, because a lot of this is found in the scriptures. Some of it's not, but a lot of it's found in the scriptures. And so let's take a look at what the scriptures say. So this verse is going from Daniel 11:37. And what it says is that he shall not regard the gods of his fathers, nor the desire of woman, nor regard any god, for he shall or will magnify himself above all. Okay, so other translations say, nor the one desired by women. So it'll say, he shall not regard the gods of his fathers, nor the one desired by women, nor regard any god, for he shall and will magnify himself above all. So that verse is absolutely talking about gods. When you see women in the scriptures, it talks about different things. It's not referring to sometimes it's referring to an actual woman, but we can see this context. This verse is actually describing gods, okay, not an actual woman. And so women can have many different meanings in the scriptures. It could refer to a type of religion. It could be a god of woman, or a woman's gods, okay? Women had gods back in their day. They also had a god that was a woman. We'll see that in Paul talks about like Diana or something like that. So we know that the context of the verse is talking about gods, not an actual woman. So let's clear up that misconception. It is not talking about an actual woman. It is talking about something to do with gods that would equate to either a religion or a religious figure that's a female, or a god of women, okay? Nor the one desired by women, okay? So that's that. So so that's cleared up. The other thing is that the last part of that verse, it says he will, or he shall magnify himself above all. So we're looking for someone who exalts himself above any god. So he will probably be very proud and very narcissistic, and he'll probably say stuff like, nobody's better than me, nobody does it better than me, nobody can do what I can do, nobody does things better than me, nobody is, greater than, nobody loves the Bible more than I do, or whatever, stuff like that. Nobody is better than me. Nobody is as good as I am. Okay, so we have to look for somebody who is boasting about themselves. Because it says he will, or he shall, because it's talking about gods, right? He will not desire or regard the gods, okay, other gods. For he will magnify himself above all gods. All, okay? All of it, everything. All right? So that is what we're looking for. So 2 Thessalonians 2:4, and this is talking about the Antichrist, who opposes and exalts. So this is another verse. So we looked at Daniel. Now we're looking at 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 4, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, above all that is worshipped, all that is called God, so that he, okay, as God sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God, shows himself that he is God. That's misconception number 1. So number 2, he will be attractive. So scriptures don't say this at all, that he will be attractive. Only that people will worship him, all right? So the scriptures do say one thing about his appearance, though, all right? In Daniel 7, verse 20, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even that horn that had eyes and a mouth that spoke very great things, whose look, so this is talking about his appearance, whose appearance or his look was more stout than his fellows. Okay, so that word stout there, the actual meaning for that word means somewhat fat or heavy build, but healthy. So kind of like a jolly look, like a Santa Claus kind of thing, where he's kind of jollier, bigger, but he's healthy, okay? So that's misconception number 2. Okay, so number 3, he will be against God, okay? So this is another thing a lot of people say, well, he will be against God. So let's take a look at what the scriptures actually say, all right? So this is coming from Daniel 8:25. I'm going to use mostly KJV, some other translations I'm going to use as well, but mostly KJV. So through his craft, okay, and by his hand, he will cause deceit to prosper. And in his own heart, he will magnify himself or make himself great. KJV says, and through his policy, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart. Okay, so this is inwardly. And if you know what the other scriptures say about, even if possible, even the elect could be deceived, we know for sure that he's probably going to be somewhat like a Christian, or say he's a Christian, or be close with Christians, because if it's possible even for the elect to be deceived, then we know that Satan will not come out being like, oh, hey, look at me, like, it's me, I'm Satan here. Not that Satan is the Antichrist, but, I'm just telling you that Satan's not going to come out and be like, that's just not how he's deceptive. So the Antichrist is not going to be like that and say things that will make, Christians be like, okay, whoa, like, clearly, if he starts saying he's God, like, clearly he's, like, Christians would be like, okay, obviously no, and then they wouldn't worship him, right? Obviously, because they'd be too smart for that. But it's going to be like the craziest deceptions, okay? So that's why you have to look and see what the scriptures actually say. So number 4, he will outwardly claim to be God. So this kind of goes along with number 3. So he will outwardly claim to be God. So let's take a look. And that's found in 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 4, and I already read that. But we'll read it again, just because it's good to go over them again. So 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 4 says that this is talking about the man of sin, which is also the Antichrist, right? So who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or all that is God, or that is worshipped. So all that is worshipped. So that he, okay, and there should be a comma here. So it makes sense if there is a comma there. So that he, comma, as God sits in the temple of God, comma, showing himself that he is God, or shows himself that he is God. So he's going to show himself that he is God by probably sitting in a temple of God, okay? And we'll get to that, what that temple of God is, that I believe it is. Okay, another version of 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 4, it says, who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God, okay? And all that is worshipped. I like this version better. So because it just makes a little bit more sense. So who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God and all that is worshipped, so that he, as God sits in the temple of God, shows himself that he is God, okay? He's going to actually show himself that he is God by doing what? Sitting in a temple. Okay, so let's take a look at, because this really I didn't really understand. I thought there was going to be a third temple, and that it would be just so, and there is going to be a third temple, but I thought there was going to, he was going to sit in a temple, brick and mortar temple, and that he would sit in the Holy of Holies where God sits, and, or where God sat, all right, before, in the Old Testament. Okay, so I thought he was going to sit in this temple, and he would claim to be God, and he'd be like, look at me, I'm God, sitting in this temple where the Holy of Holies. However, my stance has now changed because it's Paul writing 2 Thessalonians, all right? And when you read Paul's other writings in 1 Corinthians, and I should have put this verse in, I'm so sorry, but you need to look it up yourself. But it talks about the temple. 1 Corinthians 3 verse 16, all right? It says, this is Paul still writing. So know you not that you are the temple of God, that the Spirit of God dwells in you. If any man defiles the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple you are. So he's talking about the temple of God in 1 Corinthians, but he's also talking about the temple of God in 2 Thessalonians. So it just makes sense that the temple of God is our bodies. So if we read that in 2 Thessalonians, it says, who sits, so he opposes and exalts himself above all, that, all so-called gods, or that is worship, so that he, as God sits in the temple of God. Where does God sit? If you're born again, God sits in our temples. He literally, his Holy Spirit literally comes and literally sits and dwells in us. So this is the temple of God that Paul's referring to, I believe. So that is where the Antichrist wants to sit, is in people's temples, in people's bodies. All right? And so that just makes sense. And when you realize that there is DNA in I don't want to say, let's say, in certain things that go into your arm, and you realize that they can put anybody's DNA in that, and it can actually go and dwell in you. And it just so happens that there is a man that is claiming to be a father of this thing that goes into your arm. And so if he's the father of it, that means he has children. So if he's claiming to be the father of this thing, which he is, then that would mean that his children are all of the people that have something in them. So just like when we are, when the Holy Spirit comes and is put into us, we receive the spirit of adoption. We call God Abba, Father, right? So anyone that is His child, okay, anyone who has been born again of the Spirit, and the Spirit dwells in you, our Father is God, is Jesus, right? So so we need to look at this a little bit more closely so that we are understanding what is going on, because I 100% believe that it's everything to do with what the scriptures say are actually happening right this moment, and have been happening. So, and the man is already here, and we can see it if you read, if you read the scriptures. So anyway, so that's number 4. So let's go on to the fact number 5. We're going to talk about the Middle East. He will come from the Middle East. All right. So I'm sure you've heard that a lot. And let's just see what the Bible says. Okay, so because there's a man who's actually done a really good job at this, I want you to go and watch his video, okay? Because he does a really good job at tying this all together. So the Bible calls him the Assyrian. In Isaiah, you'll see a lot of talk about the Assyrian. And in Micah as well, it talks about the Assyrian. So the video is by Brother James Key, okay? And it's called Micah 5:6 and Daniel something. I can't remember the other part of it, but you'll be able to find it. So he goes into a lot of stuff in the beginning of the video that is not relevant to what he's going to be saying. So start at the 15 minute and 36 second mark. That is when he really starts to dive into that. So I'm going to lead you to that video for that. And you can also read Isaiah, and you'll find out it's talking about the Assyrian a lot, okay? So it's not in terms of where he's born. The Bible usually talks about bloodlines. And so if he is, an Assyrian, then it could be that, it is that his bloodline, okay, is from this region, or his bloodline, what is inside of him, okay? The Bible actually does tell us where he will come from. We'll talk about the ram and the goat first of all. Daniel 8 verse 5. All right, let's start with that. So if you know anything about the ram and the goat, if you don't, read Daniel 8, okay? So when you read Daniel 8, you will understand that the ram, okay, and the goat are representations of certain things, all right? And the little horn, if you know about the little horn is also referring to the Antichrist, all right? And the little horn comes out of the goat, okay? Well, where does the goat come from? So that's what we're going to read about that. And as I was considering, okay, so we'll back up to verse 4. I saw the ram. So this is a ram pushing westward, northward, and southward, okay? So the ram comes probably from the east, and it might say that here, so that no beast might stand before him. Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, a he-goat came from the west, on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven, and out of one of them came forth a little horn. So where does the goat come from? The goat comes from the west. And the little horn comes from the goat, so it's probably fair to say that the little horn is going to come from the west. Okay? And this makes perfect sense. So let's just say the little horn comes from the U.S., okay? Because it's from the west. So let's just say that Then if we go to Revelation 17, talks about 17 verse 3. Sorry, because this all ties in together. So if, let's just say, the little horn comes from the west, and let's just say that that's the U.S., because I believe that Babylon is the U.S. So let's see here. The whore, okay, it's talking about in Revelation 17. And this is going to show judgment of the great whore that sits upon many waters, okay, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, all right? And this whore is talking about the great city, which I believe is the U.S., which I believe is Babylon. So this is Revelation 17:3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. This woman sits upon a scarlet beast, which has 7 heads and 10 horns. And if you know anything about the 7 heads, 10 horns, that's talking about the same beast that is the Antichrist, okay, in Revelation 13. So we have a woman that sits upon this beast, all right? So the woman is the great city. You'll see that at the very end of Revelation 17. It says, and that woman which you saw is the great city which reigns over the kings of the earth, which I believe is talking about Babylon. So if the U.S. is Babylon and the woman that is the great city sits upon the beast, well, that would mean that the beast is coming from the west, which all ties in together. So now that we've got that out of the way, the Bible talks about the beast of the sea, all right? And there's another beast that comes from the earth. Well, the Lord has shown me that the beast of the sea is a figure or prophetic literature or language where the sea represents something and the earth represents something. So the beast of the sea, what the Lord has shown me, is that is the Gentile nation. Okay, that is referring to, so when it comes from the sea, that's referring to the Gentile nation. And the beast of the earth is actually referring to the Jewish nation, okay? And so the beast that comes from the sea is going to be a Gentile, or he's going to come out of the Gentile nations. And so that actually ties in to Daniel 9. And the people of the prince that will come, they will destroy the city, I believe. And so, yes, it says, after 62 weeks shall the Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And so the people, if it's the beast of the sea and if it's the Gentile nation, then you will see that the Gentile people will destroy the city and the sanctuary. Okay, so that kind of ties it all in together. The other thing is that the Jews don't need him to be born of a Jewish bloodline. They're just looking for a king and a political leader who is going to help them build a temple, and so that they want to start doing their sacrifices again, and stuff like that. So the Jews don't actually have to have him be born from a Jewish bloodline. All right. Okay. So the beast is a man, not a system. So a lot of people are saying that. The Bible is very clear on this, that it's a lot of things, okay? That the man has many descriptions and many names, just like Satan has many descriptions, many names. The Bible calls him, this man, okay, the man of sin. He calls him the son of lawlessness, calls him the son of perdition. Okay, in Zechariah 11:17, it calls him the idol shepherd, and it calls him the wicked one. It calls him a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns and all of that stuff. So you can't just take one verse that talks about a beast and then disregard the other verses. So it also talks about the beast who was and is not and yet is. That would definitely be something to do with kind of like a clone or something. Probably because of all their technology, they cannot, well, we already know that they can make human clones, like no problem. They're not actually humans, but clones from humans, okay? And that would definitely make sense of that verse where it says that, you know, the beast who was and is not but yet is, or, you know, something along those lines. That would definitely be referring to a clone. It could be referring to a robotoid, or, you know, they have so many, the technology is so advanced that, you know, a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, yeah, it could be like there's 7 clones of him, or 10, you know, 10 people of him, and they're just like, each one has a different, you know, who knows, personhood of him or whatever, right? So actually, it's really funny if you go to, there's a video that it was on Ellen, and I think it's Trump debating Trump. If you look that up, there is, I believe, 7 Trumps or 10 Trumps, and you'll be able to see it for yourself. They're all in a row, and you can just take a look and see in the scriptures that it lines up with what the scriptures say regarding this. You know, maybe they're all the same. They're all connected to the same person, okay? There is also a system, obviously, in place where it's, you know, a beast system. That's definitely undeniable. However, the Bible definitely does talk about a man, because when the Lord Jesus comes back, he's going to, you know, take the man and the false prophet and put them into the lake of fire. Okay, so if it's just a system, you can't just like take a system and just like, the lake of fire is for people, or non-humans, like that have a spirit that isn't a human spirit, like clones and stuff like that. Like they don't have a soul, right? So they're not actually human. So anyways, there's definitely a beast system, no problem to agree with that. However, there is definitely a man, because we definitely also know that this man is going to have a wound. And he's going to, you know, come back to life, and then he's going to have some sort of head wound or whatever. Actually, we can actually read about it. Let's go to Zechariah 11:17, and I'll touch base on this because I'm sure nobody's ever heard of this. Okay, so Zechariah 11:17, it says, "Woe to the idle shepherd that leaves the flock. The sword shall be upon his arm, and upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened." Okay, so if you know anything about the iPet Goat video, you will actually see this verse come to life in that video. And if you know about the Islamic faith, or I think that's what it's called, they actually have their Mahdi or Mahdi, something to do with that, their Antichrist or their Messiah or something. I can't remember what it is. I'm so sorry. But it's interesting because I heard someone say this, is that they're looking for someone that also will have their something to do with their arm, and their right eye will be darkened. And if you go into iPet Goat video and you watch it, you'll see that the person, there's a person on a screen, first of all, that is tormenting this little boy, and it's like a Draco, and his right eye is darkened, okay? And you'll also see under his eye is the name of who that is, but if you want to know, I can tell you. But it's really cool how they put the truth right out in plain sight, for those to see, for those who, you know, really, the Lord can use people to see the truth. And so another part of the video, you'll see there's like a Mary in like a black cape and black clothes and stuff like that, and she's kind of mourning for this little tiny boy in her hands. Well, if you notice, the little tiny boy is all wrapped up in bandages, and his right arm, I believe it's right arm, the sword shall be upon his arm, and upon his right eye. His arm shall be clean dried up, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. So you'll see that he has there's something to do with his arm is wounded, and then his right eye has like this like patch on it or some sort of, and there's like a bug that goes around it. And so that little boy ends up coming back to life, and you'll see him twirling in this like this white I don't want to say it's a costume, but like this white dress almost, okay? And that whole situation is actually for the Assyrian New Year. So he's wearing, this little boy is wearing this Assyrian clothing for the Assyrian New Year. So we know that it's also in the scriptures too that he will be Assyrian. So it ties all together with the scriptures. So it's really cool how you'll be able to see the scriptures come to life through how they tell you the truth in plain sight. But anyways, that's Zechariah 11:17. And iPet Goat tells you exactly, shows you exactly the exact same thing as what this says. So that's pretty cool. So anyways, so that is the, has to do with the idol shepherd. So we're definitely looking for a man, okay? Not just a system, but definitely a man. So another thing too is that there's some people saying that the beast of Daniel 7, I think, where it talks about the first beast, the second beast, the third beast, and the fourth beast, they're saying that that same beast is the same beast in Revelation 13, but it's not, because one is talking about a man, the Antichrist beast, and one is talking about the kingdom, okay? So just to clear that up, if you see someone saying, or if you see people saying that it's the same thing, it's not. One's referring to a kingdom beast, and then one's referring to an actual, beast that is the, referring to the Antichrist as well. But that it could be this clone type of thing, or robotoid, or who knows with their technology. But anyways, but he was a man, okay? I believe he was a man, that this person is just not a human being anymore. But he looks like he's human in the public eye. And they're going to make an image of him once he dies and comes back to life. Well, he's not really dead, because he's not a human being. So anyways, okay, so the last, I think it's the last thing. Yes, he will be revealed publicly. All right. So this comes from 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 3. It says, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition." So that day that it's talking about is talking about the day of the Lord, and it will not come until there's going to come a falling away first, and that the man of sin will be revealed, the son of perdition. All right. Okay, so it doesn't say at all anything about how he's going to be revealed. So a lot of people have just like jumped to this conclusion that he's going to be revealed publicly, and that, that the Lord is going to just reveal it, and he's just going to reveal himself. Doesn't say that. So it just says that that the man of sin will be revealed before Jesus, the day, of Jesus' return. So, okay. So we don't actually know how he's going to be revealed. Then it goes on to say, "And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." So he's going to consume this person, this man, this being, okay, with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. All right, so we have to read the entire part of this, but read that whole chapter, because it doesn't, or read like a couple of those verses there, because it doesn't say when, it does say when, he'll be revealed. It just doesn't say how. So we just don't know how he's going to be revealed, except for that the Lord is, when he comes back, he's actually going to consume with the spirit of his mouth and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So he's going to be destroyed, and it seems to be that that's when, that's when he will be revealed to the world. But to the Christians who read the scriptures, he's already been revealed in the scriptures, and so that we know what to look for. He has also been revealed to people who search for the truth and want the truth. And, he's given us plenty of scripture to go on to know what to look for. Also, God can do incredible things and give people things that are secret information that people have tried to hide, and the Lord has, because the Lord is amazing and the Lord wants to get the truth out, he can actually use things and people to reveal things that are hidden about who this man is. And so you can't try and disregard the fact that God is always in the scriptures, always telling people ahead of time certain things to prepare them and to tell other people. Okay, that is just scriptural. And so if you think that God is not going to reveal this Antichrist, to anybody until he's revealed publicly or something, like that you're definitely way off. The Revelation is all about telling us what's going to happen, so that we can be prepared and we can know what to look for, because it also talks about this person's mark, okay? And I didn't even talk about this part, but there's a lot of people that believe that his mark is not going to be like it's going to be a spiritual mark of some sort. But if you understand the world that we live in a physical world with the spiritual realm and other realms as well. But you can't just separate and say, well, the mark is just spiritual and it's not going to have anything to do with us physically. Well, unfortunately, that's not the case, because everything that is in our world that we are in a physical realm. And so it is going to probably be a physical mark. It will be, actually, I know without a doubt that it will be a physical thing that will affect us spiritually. Okay, because you cannot separate and be like, oh, well, this is just spiritual. It has nothing to do with the physical, but the realm that we live in is physical. So it'll probably be physical, and it'll connect to our spirituality, because you can't separate the two. So anything that affects me spiritually is also going to affect me physically and emotionally and mentally. And that's just how the world works right now, because we're in a physical realm until the Lord Jesus comes back and he rolls up the firmament, which I believe is separating the physical from the spiritual. And so once that is out of the way, then everything will be in the spiritual. But yeah, so anyways, I hope that helps with the misconceptions. I'm sorry it was so long, but hopefully that clears up a lot of the things that you have been taught, and so that you can see what the actual scriptures have to say. So anyways, God bless, and thanks for watching.